Hi everybody, my name is Rowan, and I am the Mystic Frog. Welcome to my channel on this night, the most intense night of the Lion's Gate, 8-8. The portal is wide open, the downloads and light codes are coming in, and the collective I'm reading for tonight has been experiencing this energy a lot more intensely than many. I'm getting a sense of a starseed collective tonight. If you have been on the earth many times before, you are in a new area and level of your enlightenment. And if this is one of your first go-arounds, you're here for a reason. 2025 so far has proven to be a very intense year. Earth is going through a lot of changes. We are seeing more people getting awakened to the illusion of the veil. And as that happens, it's almost like birth pains. And this collective is here to help humanity on the whole to ascend into their 4D reality. There's been a lot of shifting of timelines, and what I really mean by that is that people are choosing right now one of two paths. They're either closing off and becoming more engaged in the material world, or they are opening up and realizing that there is a lot more to life than the matter that we see around us. We are energy. This matter is something of an illusion. So tonight we're going to dig into that a little more with some of the cards. And I'll be talking about some of the channeled messages that I've been receiving really for the past couple of weeks now leading up to this. I've been connecting to what feels to me like a Sirian collective, which isn't surprising given where we are. Sirius is aligning with our sun and the constellation Orion, and the Sirians were some of the ones responsible for helping prepare this earth for humanity, along with the animals and the minerals and plants. And another one that I've been connecting to is more of a reptilian energy. Now, I know that a lot of people tend to think of them as negative and as harmful to humanity, but that is really not the type of reptilians that I have been picking up on. It is a very ancient wisdom. It is a very primal wisdom. And they're coming through because they see that we are on this potential of either taking a lot more time to get to where we're trying to go in our evolution, or being able to accelerate it and to jump into our highest selves and our highest timelines. They're here to help with that. So the first card that comes up, wow, it's really interesting. As I had said that, if you can see the image on this card, it's called vulnerability, and that is a very reptilian, draconic type of image. Those crystals that I'm seeing remind me of the double terminated Lemurian seed crystals. Lemurian energy is something else that has been coming through. And you know, the Lemurians were an ancient race that had much advanced technology, and unfortunately, they went down something of a dark path and wound up destroying their civilization. We're approaching a timeline where, if we're not careful, we could wind up doing the same. And what I'm seeing in this card, there's a lot of magenta, there's a lot of blue. Magenta is a color that talks about coming through as your authentic self, stepping into your authenticity. I have a feeling that this collective has been doing that a lot lately. You've been through a whole lot of development in this lifetime. You have pushed through a lot of challenges where perhaps you haven't felt accepted, or you haven't felt as though people treated you as part of the group. And it's a painful situation when that happens. A lot of times we stay hidden for a long time. We shut down some of our gifts because we don't really understand how others take them, and others don't necessarily understand us. You pass through almost like dark nights of the soul. And another thing that this particular figure is reminding me of, this this dragon, it makes me think of Kundalini energy, that energy that's coiled at the base of our spine, that is our life force. I think a lot of the work that a lot of us have been doing lately on ourselves have that energy rising and connecting to a lot of our ancient wisdom and very ancient ancestors. Another image on this card is a dragonfly. And while dragonfly is often thought of as a symbol of transformation, it's also a symbol of illusion. And this dragonfly is superimposed over sacred geometry, a triangle. And to me, that indicates that for a lot of people right now, that illusion is starting to peel away. We're starting to see behind the curtain. We're starting to understand more of why we came here. And a lot of us are awakening to our true purpose. For some of you, that is going to be healing. For some of you, that is going to be channeling. You're going to be opening up to new ways of perceiving or old ways of perceiving that you may have shut down. And the flowers on this particular card are lotuses. Lotuses are significant because they grow out of the mud. They grow out of, symbolically, you think about all of the things that we go through as human beings to start to awaken to our compassion and our empathy and our enlightenment. And it's in that murky depth, in that shadow world, that we start to gain the wisdom that allows us to grow into our higher selves and into our true power. Vulnerability, the name on this card is really significant as well, because one of the things that is happening with this Lionsgate, one of the things that's been happening for a while now, but it's really accelerating during this time, is that we are losing our sense of hierarchy, the importance of hierarchy. We're starting to get reflected back to us the challenges of living in a power over paradigm, people having power over others, people needing to go through priests or intermediaries or things like that for their spirituality. That is starting to break down. We're starting to return to the way we were when we first came to this earth, when we first began to walk it as Homo sapiens, as human beings. We're dissolving that hierarchy and learning to be sovereign with ourselves and others. So I'm going to pull another card about this. This is about some of the cosmic energies coming through these cards and the messages that they have for us. Vulnerability. There's strength in vulnerability. There's tremendous strength in vulnerability. Someone who can stand in a moment and be completely, authentically themselves and open up and allow that vulnerability to show, it is actually tremendously powerful and tremendously transformative. When you can have a conversation with another person where both of you are letting your guard down and you're just being completely honest, it can really move mountains in your personal life as well as the world at large. So the next card that's coming up for us, and this is one that's been coming up a lot in readings that I've done recently for myself and for a few friends, it's our ancient future. And this is kind of exactly what I'm talking about here. You see how she is balanced with these double helixes coming up from her hands, the ancient DNA. She's got light codes coming in, coming down into her third eye. The yin and yang fish are on the same wavelength together. It's the balancing of that projective and receptive energy. There's a pearl at the center of her oyster, and pearls are ancient symbols of wisdom and of alchemy, the things that we make out of the dross of our lives, the treasures that we are able to bring into the world. The crescent behind her reminds me a lot of the goddess Hathor, the cow-headed goddess of ancient Egypt. And because Lionsgate is very significant to the ancient Egyptians, we also often get messages from Egyptian deities during this time. Hathor was a mother goddess. She predated Isis. But she was not just nurturing. She also had destructive capabilities. And an interesting thing about Egyptian deities that's a little different from the way we think about some Western deities is that if one of them acted like another, then they would become that other deity for the time that they were embodying that energy. So Isis, if she released her rage, could become Sekhmet. Sekhmet, if she calmed down and gave more of her attention to her mothering side, could transform into Isis. And I think that that message that's coming through from these goddesses is very significant to us right now. You, especially around this time period and up into the full moon, the things that you're giving your attention to are things that you're really going to embody a lot more than perhaps you're used to. And in this world, embodiment is enlightenment. It's what we came here to do. We came here to have a physical experience. But having that physical experience, we're beginning to learn how to, when I say shapeshift, obviously I don't really mean literally shapeshift, but when you begin to carry different energies within yourself, when you begin to embody different emotions, when you know yourself very well, you can bring aspects of yourself out to heal others, to heal yourself, to transform the world. And your influence is much larger than it seems to be. I think a lot of people, especially now, really want you to feel small and insignificant. They want you to think that you don't really have much of an effect. And what they are not considering, what they are not seeing, and what this collective does see, I feel, is that energetically, you can have a very large influence just by knowing yourself and understanding how to embody that which you want to manifest. So I did one more card out of this, and this one is called Water, the Overflow. It has some really interesting imagery, and again, we have that crescent above, that crescent that reminds me so much of Hathor. That magenta color is back. The blue color is back. Blue is very significant for communication. You may find your communication abilities and centers in your throat chakra opening up more. It is easier to speak your truth right now. It is easier to feel it coming through strongly. The flowers on this particular card are roses, and each of them has an eye in the center of it. It's probably hard to see when I held it up, but each of these flowers has an eye that's opened up. And I think that this is a good representation of these new or old, but previously shut down psychic gifts that you have, and your ability to begin to see into these other realms. The water that is coming down over her and from each of her hands, and that is coming out of her heart center, makes me think of blessings. Blessings from the divine, blessings from your ancestors, blessings from these other energies that are coming into influence and speak with us at this time. As long as you are allowing yourself to be open, you become an instrument of these energies. You are able to spread them out into the world, and that's really quite a beautiful gift. So speaking of the ancestors, the next card are cards that I want to pull. I feel like for this collective, some of our ancestors are coming through and they have messages for us. This particular deck is called Postcards from Spirit, and I really enjoy it. I think the messages are often very encouraging and helpful. And so I'm going to pull maybe 2 or 3 of those, and we're going to see who's coming through for us. So the first one says, Dearest you, as you think, so will you experience life. What we were just talking about. Your thoughts and your emotions shape your reality. Thoughts are that powerful, and they need minding. Let the unruly, chaotic ones settle down so they serve you or get released instead of wreaking havoc. These thoughts arise when connected to the energy of fear and often masquerade as truth. Yet the real truth is that essentially all is well. Fear energy has been spreading exponentially around the globe. It is kind of a shadow form of things that we need to be aware of if we are going to evolve. And they are things that we're also fighting within ourselves, as well as things that are manifesting out there. So, of course, you have thoughts that are positive, strong, organized, accepting, creative, open, and so on. Those are the ones we want you to keep thinking, and they have a less frantic quality. They're stimulating in a good way and don't get away from you. So I think a lot of us can also relate to doom scrolling. The things that you consume wind up kind of taking over your psyche and intruding on your mind in ways that you're not necessarily aware of. And that's kind of what this world is wanting us to do right now. That's what these opposing forces that do not want us to evolve yet are trying to encourage. Distractions, anything that keeps you agitated, anything that keeps you in that energy of worrying what's going to come next, and really being online and all the things that come with it don't help with that right now. So the question they ask is, how do you keep an inner eye on your thoughts? Are you the observer? Can you step into the role of the observer? Sometimes I think people have a hard time doing that, but once you figure out how to do it, you're going to find that being able to kind of step out of that moment, to take yourself out of the minutiae of the present and get a bit of a bird's eye view, that's going to help you with a lot of that anxiety. So it says, meditate and leave judgment out of the mix. Everyone has those fearful thoughts. Love them, love yourself, and then choose the thoughts that you want the world to reflect back to you. Life is not as hard as you think. If you really are going through a very tough time right now, I understand that it can be difficult to hear a message like that. It can sound like it's not really empathetic or taking your situation into consideration. I've been there too. I've found that sometimes that type of positivity that can tip over into toxic positivity does more harm than good. And I don't really think that that's what this card is talking about. I don't think that that's what the ancestors are saying. They're just reiterating some of what we had already covered about embodiment and about how your emotions, to some degree, shape your reality. So one of the examples I heard fairly recently from someone is that, they view themselves as a healer, and you would think that that's a very positive paradigm. That's a great thing to view yourself as. But if you put too much energy into that one identity, then basically you're creating a world of people who are wounded and need your help. And you lose sight of the other aspects of you and other people with which you can interact. So it's just talking about staying in balance. I'm doing one more of these because I just really think they're great, and they always seem to be right on point to what's going on. Dear you, it might be hard to believe you'll ever get to where you want to go, feel the way you want to feel, and find peace and security, but you can. There's lots to celebrate in this life, but first you need to let go of this attachment to achieving certain results. It's easy to get caught in the endless loop of wanting this or that so that you can feel safe. And the desire to feel safety comes from what? At the core, fear, lacking. The only way out is to surrender the attachment. Empty yourself so you can be filled with something new. The compulsion will be lifted and peace will come. Trust that something better waits, that something new will open up, and you will see new opportunities for fulfillment. The truth is, whenever you get into the loop, what you are really looking for is spirit. That connection is where the power, the peace, and the purpose lies. Everything else follows after that. Give yourself a hug. We've got you. Loving you so much. And I had something happen recently where I decided to approach a situation without trying to fixate on any outcome. I had no idea what was going to happen in this conflict between me and another person that is someone I respect, but you come to loggerheads. And it was really kind of amazing going into that with that spirit of, I'm not attached to any outcome. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to trust that the divine is going to take me to where I need to be, going to take us to where we need to be, and is going to be able to work things out far better than either one of us could do on our own or with anything that we could come up with. And fortunately, she met me in that vulnerable place, and we were able to come to a kind of accord that has been rare in my life when I have that type of difficulties with people. So I truly feel that if I had had some sort of outcome in mind, even if it wasn't conscious, I would have been working toward it or trying to work toward it or being pulled toward a fear of what if this doesn't work out or she doesn't respect me or anything like that. And I think that we do that more often than we realize. Right around this time of the Lion's Gate, we do have to be careful about where we're putting our attention and where we're going because the manifestations are coming so quickly. Those of you that I'm speaking to tonight, you're very tied into divine consciousness. You are very close to source. You are very close to your higher self. And when you're in that place, when you're on that threshold of going up to another level of experiencing life in 4D, manifestations happen whether you're really consciously pushing for them or not. They're going to come from your strongest emotions and your deepest desires, which is why now more than ever, it's very important that you know what those are, that you can sit with yourself in meditation or you can walk in the woods, whatever brings you into a quiet place, and really get clear on what it is that you're wanting in your life right now. Because this is the beginning. This is going to launch you into that next phase. So let's look a little bit more. Let's look at what that potential could be, where you're starting, where you're trying to go. Where is collective trying to go right now, Spirit? What is going to be most relevant to them at this time? Encouragement. I think the imagery on that card is very beautiful. And it can speak of a need that you have for yourself. Also, interestingly, the numbers on that card, 54, add up to 9, which is one of the numbers of completion of a cycle. But encouragement is something that you could either be working toward yourself to do for someone else, something that you need, feeling that you're praying and not necessarily getting it from Spirit. But that card is telling you that regardless of how you perceive things right now, regardless of how you perceive whether you are making those connections or not, you are. And you don't have much further to push if you just keep on going. And I also think when I look at this card of a baby giraffe, you think about how gangly and awkward they are when they first start to walk, and they wobble and it seems very uncertain, and they often fall and they get back up again. And that's how a lot of us are with our spiritual gifts. We have a lot of self-doubt. We have a lot of concern that, what if I'm just kind of deluding myself and none of this is really real, and I'm sending myself down a rabbit hole or a wild goose chase. That's not always the case. That isn't the case. Spirit is telling you that, and that whether you can see them or not, whether you can feel them or not, your ancestors are very strongly with you right now. and want you to get on that exalted path, the path that leads to your highest spiritual growth, the path that leads to abundance in all of its forms. What is challenging us right now, Spirit? What are we facing that is preventing us from feeling this encouragement and from making the type of progress that we want to make? So the card that came up for that is Moonlight. And I'm sure that you can probably see that there are dragonfly wings on her back. And there is an owl that is flying past the moon. These are all spirits of illusion and discernment. Dragonfly, the spirit of illusion. Owl, the spirit of discernment. A lot of times we have a hard time going deeper and really seeing behind the veil and what our challenges are. And this card is saying that illusion is the biggest thing in our way. And we go back to the fact that there are a lot of things going on in the world right now that are very distracting, that are very serious. And it's difficult to take your eyes off of that, and it's difficult to understand how much of that is a reflection of collective fear. And until you can really get past that, until you can sink down into your true wisdom, you're going to have a hard time seeing past that illusion. One more card from this deck. What is going to help us the most right now? What type of attitude can people take? Or spirit can they call on to really help them out? Oh, that's pretty. So yeah, strength. The number 44 adds up to the number 8, the number of infinity. The tree at the top of that globe makes me think of the world tree. And what I really think that this card is saying more than anything else right now is that grounding and sinking into the spirit of Gaia, going out into nature. You know, if you live in a city, you can still find bits of nature. It has ways of coming up through the cracks. There are bound to be some places you can go that feel a bit wild and have some animal life that, you know, has adapted to your city. You just have to look around. But the very nature of Gaia is pushing us toward this evolution. We're going with her. We're part of her. And a lot of times it's really tempting to kind of look at things like, you know, oh, we're destroying the earth, we're hurting the earth, we're doing terrible things. And while it's true that that is happening to our habitable environment, that's not really hurting the earth. We're scratching around on the surface. You know, almost 99% of all species that have ever lived on this planet are extinct. What we might be hurting is our own chances of survival, but, you know, as a human species. But Gaia herself is of infinite strength. Gaia herself, at least compared to us, is of infinite wisdom. And in sinking into community with her, sinking into meditation, getting your feet on the ground, running your hands through the grass, you can really push past some of the 3D things that are taking place that are so distracting. It reminds you of your actual home. And even if this is your first incarnation here or your second, and you haven't ever really felt like you belong, this message is telling you that that is one of the things that you came here to do. You came here to sink into yourself. You came here to sink into Gaia and learn how to commune with her and make her your true home. That's what's needed right now. That's what's going to help with this evolution. So I'm going to do 3 tarot cards to finish off this particular reading. And what I want these to represent, it's going to be the recent past for us, what we're trying to integrate right now with this Lion's Gate portal, and where that's going to take us. And I want to say the influence is going to be anywhere from the next 4 to 6 months. So the first card that comes out is the Knight of Wands. And I really love these cards. The illustrations on them are so beautiful and natural. With the Knight of Wands, that is talking about that journey that we've been taking to learn how to exert our will. It's a card of somewhat fast movement. You may have been stagnated for quite some time before this particular phase began for you. Once it did, the movement picked up right away. You're sinking into your newfound ability to co-create, and you're sinking into your newfound ability to manifest more quickly, to tap into that creative spirit that we all have, but that sometimes gets worn down and away by day-to-day life, or people in our lives who don't really support our creativity, or seeing our creativity, or failing to see our creativity for what it is, because in general, society has a very set and prescribed definition of what's creative and what isn't. But I mean, you're living your life every single day that you were making choices and living your life. You were exerting your creativity, and the journey toward trying to develop more of that is what's brought you to the Lion's Gate. The next card that came out is the Two of Wands. And this can speak about having to make a choice or feeling stuck between 2 choices, stuck between 2 worlds, and not necessarily knowing which way to go. It can feel a bit stagnant. So even though you're in this energy of the Lion's Gate right now, and a lot of these downloads are pouring in, if you haven't really sat with yourself and gotten firm on exactly what you want to be doing in the next few months, it can feel like stagnation. It can feel like not really knowing what to do. But looking at this Knight of Wands, I feel like on some level you really do. You just might not be there consciously yet. And yeah, that's leading you into this Ace of Swords. The Ace of Swords is clarity of vision. It is being able to renew yourself and pursue your goals with increased vigor and purity of mind. Whatever you set your mind to right now, over the next 4 to 6 months, if you're not sure where you're going yet, you're going to be pretty soon. It might be through other people that come into your life, but looking at this card, I'm seeing this more as something of a bit of a solitary journey. It's not really quite to hermit level of withdrawal, but it is about kind of taking that step back and going within. And that's something we all have to do at some point in our lives. We have this ebb and flow of energy where we're out in the world, we come back. We're out in the world, we come back. I recently emerged from my own hermit phase, and for almost a year and a half doing card readings, I just kept getting that, you need to go deeper, you need to wait, it's not time yet, it's not time yet. It was very frustrating. And when that finally shifted, it shifted very quickly, and it almost felt like being, an arrow shot out of a bow. This energy of this reading, these cards, kind of seems similar to that for me. Once you have that breakthrough, once you get whatever is clouding you out of the way, you're going to make a lot of progress toward your goals. And most of the readings that I do, it's really not so much about romance or relationships or business. It can be, because we can put our spirituality into our life and the people that we deal with, and the places that we put our energy. But tonight, I really feel like most of the energy that's coming through for this is cosmic energy. It is about soul development. It is about your purpose in life. It's more than just mundane concerns, no matter how pressing they may seem to be. And that's what's been coming through for me with messages I've been getting in the past couple of weeks. I've had some very vivid dreams about transformation and change. I've had a lot of dreams about snakes. Generally, when I dream about snakes, it's about newfound wisdom. Now, that wisdom itself may be fairly ancient. It may be something that's been around a long time, but it's new to you. So you may be finding that you are getting new insights that aren't really typical of the sorts of things that you usually think about. You may be getting impressions in ways that you're not used to. You might have visions or intense dreams. You might hear the voice of a past loved one whispering in your ear, or catch a scent of perfume that someone's around you. But these senses are going to be opening, and if you focus on it and you do the work that you need to connect to that inner core of yourself, that part of you that has always been there waiting for you to find it, then I believe in these next few months you're going to see some exponential growth and change. And you were brought here. You did come here at this time to help with a difficult transition. And I do want to say a little word about some of the people around us who may seem to be reflecting darkness and carrying very heavy energy. I don't really like to think in terms of like low vibration and high vibration, just because when you speak in those terms, it tends to have a bit more of a judgment than I want for what I'm trying to say. But the people who are reflecting negatively right now, the people who are taking actions that are extremely difficult to witness and deal with, they're here for a reason too. We need to see those reflections, to see where we have not put our attention, where we have not yet created more justice around us in our lives and in our world. Without seeing those reflections and without the intensity of them, it kind of allows us to go through our life like sleepwalkers a little bit, doesn't it? It seems to me that happens. And in times of peace and prosperity, not everyone experiences that peace and prosperity. So right now, a lot of these old, very old injustices are coming up out of the shadow. They're coming out of our collective shadow and showing us the areas that need love and transformation. And so, even though it is difficult, I would encourage you not to look away, as much as possible. Yes, protect your peace, protect your heart. If you need to take a break, if you need to rest, if you need to withdraw, do that. But don't look away. Don't try to use spirituality to bypass these lessons, because bypassing is what causes us to take much longer to reach the goal that we're trying to reach. It takes us much longer to ascend when we try to get out of doing the hard work. So I'm trying to see if there's anything else that they want me to say. Cosmic spirits, your ancestors, being guided to pull one more postcard to tie this reading up. So let's see what they have to say. This one? Okay. Dearest you, sometimes it's wonderful to give, but there are times you might find yourself overgiving. Now might be a good time to check in and see where you might be cutting off the flow of abundance. Let others give to you, even if you are more comfortable being generous and being the giver, the healer, the rescuer. What were we just talking about? That when you try to embody that exclusively, you wind up creating those situations and drawing them to you. In the art of living, we sometimes overlook an important skill: receiving gracefully and with gratitude. This next part is really, really important to me. I'm really being called to emphasize this to you guys. Without diminishing yourself or trying to deny vulnerability or bringing an agenda of equality to it. Receiving is hard for some people, maybe you. You do not need a this for that in your exchange with others. Yeah, quid pro quo is good sometimes, but if you really want to live authentically, it's not always that way, and it doesn't always have to be that way. You're doing good in the world. Let the world give back and support you. Yes, collective. Let the world give back to you. The world is full of abundance, and it's wanting you to have it. And sometimes it's our own limiting beliefs and our own beliefs of not deserving or feeling that it would be selfish to take that blocks that from coming to us. So you can give up the old stories that have you convinced you have to do everything alone with no help. Let your well be filled. That's all they want me to say tonight. I hope that whatever you're manifesting is something that brings you a lot of fulfillment and joy. And until next time, take care.